My name's Lewis Douglas, and I never imagined that a routine trip to the hospital on an otherwise unremarkable morning would alter the course of my existence so profoundly. I underwent something beyond comprehension, a brush with mortality that whisked me away to a realm I had always dismissed as fantasy. It began on a frosty winter dawn when a crushing pain gripped my chest. At first, I chalked it up to stress, but as the ache intensified, panic set in. My family bundled me into the car and sped toward the emergency entrance, where the medical team sprang into action. Doctors barked orders, a chorus of beeping monitors filled the air, and overhead lights flickered like distant stars. In what felt like mere seconds, I sensed life draining from me. My body grew weightless, and the roar of the hospital faded into an almost sacred hush. I found myself lifted above my own frame, looking down at the flurry of activity below, a tangle of gowns, masks, and frantic faces. There was no pain, only an uncanny serenity. A gentle, radiant glow beckoned me forward, not harsh, like steel, but warm as sunlight, through a stained glass window. I floated toward it effortlessly, as if drawn by an invisible current, the boundaries of space and time dissolving with every heartbeat. Suddenly, I entered a vast expanse, more vivid than any photograph, a panorama of colors that defied earthly description. The very air pulsed with an energy of love and tranquility, and I felt every fiber of my being resonate in harmony with this place. Though I had never visited it before, I sensed a profound connection, as if my soul had always belonged here. Figures began to materialize at the periphery, shapes that felt profoundly familiar, though their faces remained elusive. I realized they were kindred spirits, fellow travelers in this dimension beyond human understanding. Yet I sensed one presence more keenly than the rest, a gentle urgency weaving through the ambience. Then she appeared, Princess Diana, not adorned in regal finery, but clad in a simple flowing gown that shimmered like moonlight on water. Her aura radiated compassion and strength, as though she were both guardian and guide. When our eyes met, a wave of emotion washed over me, reverence mixed with recognition. I instinctively knew this meeting was no accident. She extended her hand, and I felt a silent invitation to listen, to learn, and to carry her message back to the world below. The landscape shifted, fleeting glimpses of her life unfurled before me, not as headlines, but as intimate moments of vulnerability and resolve. I saw her face when she comforted children, heard her voice as she championed causes that touched the heart. I saw tears she shed in private, and the unwavering courage she summoned in public. Lewis, she began, her tone calm yet imbued with urgency. You've been brought here for a purpose. Her words reverberated within me, each syllable laden with intent. The world teeters on a brink, darkness and division grow, and people hunger for hope. Her voice carried a timbre that felt carved from both joy and sorrow. I wanted to speak, to ask 1,000 questions, but found myself silent, wholly absorbed by the gravity of her presence. I'm not here to be idealized, she continued, a faint, rueful smile playing at her lips. I was flawed, like everyone, even in that life you remember. But I learned that our missteps do not define us. What matters is the love we choose to give, the compassion we extend to those in pain. She stepped closer, her luminous figure growing brighter, without ever blinding me. I felt as though the very concept of fear was being erased from my consciousness. Forgive yourself, she whispered, for every error that weighs upon your heart. Only then can you guide others toward forgiveness and healing. I trembled, for her words reached into corners of my soul. I had long neglected guilt over past failures, the grudges I clung to like armor. Time is slipping away. She pressed on, her voice folding into the stillness around us. Your world needs messengers of light, people willing to share truth, to bridge what divides. Promise me you will not stay silent. In that moment, I felt an unwavering resolve settle within me, as if her faith in me had become my own. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if the gesture was necessary. She smiled, a soft light blossoming in her eyes. Be that beacon, she said. Let your life illuminate the path for others. Then the scene shifted once more. I glimpsed communities fractured by fear, families yearning for reconciliation, individuals searching for meaning. Each vision was accompanied by her voice, urging mercy, unity, and courage. When the final image faded, I stood again in that luminous expanse, Princess Diana's presence as vivid as ever. She placed a hand gently on my shoulder, and I felt waves of warmth spread through me. "Share what you have witnessed," she encouraged, "and let no shadow snuff out the truth of this place." Her tone softened. "I will not leave you helpless. You carry within you the power to inspire." Gradually, the glow began to dissolve, and I felt myself drifting back toward the hospital room. The beeping machines grew louder, the scent of antiseptic returned, and I became aware of the frantic voices around me once more. A nurse's hand squeezed mine, her eyes wide with relief. "Welcome back," she murmured, and though I looked at her, my mind still dwelled in that realm of light. As consciousness fully returned, a profound stillness remained in my chest, not pain, but a determination forged in that other world. I had been given a second chance, and with it, a mandate. Days later, as I healed, I reflected on every moment of that journey, the weightlessness, the kaleidoscope of color, the figures who watched in silence, and above all, Diana's serene authority. Her message was etched into my very marrow: love without condition, forgive without hesitation, and speak without fear. I know skeptics will question my account, dismiss it as hallucination or wishful thinking, yet I feel compelled to share, for if even one soul finds solace or purpose in these words, then the crossing was worth every second. My life after that near-death experience has followed a new trajectory. I've dedicated myself to acts of kindness, small gestures that ripple outward, molding brighter ripples in the lives of others. I've reached out to estranged friends, offered forgiveness where resentment once festered, and spoken publicly about the unity we so desperately need. And in every speech, every conversation, every act of compassion, I sense her presence guiding me, reminding me that a single spark of empathy can ignite a blaze of transformation. Now each night before I sleep, I close my eyes and see that luminous expanse once more. I hear her final words echoing through the corridors of my mind: "Be the light that others can follow in the darkness." Her guidance has become my compass, and I walk forward with newfound purpose. I share this testimony not to exalt myself, but to hand you the lantern lit by her grace. The world may be fraught with challenges, but if we choose love over fear, forgiveness over vengeance, hope over despair, then even the darkest hour can yield dawn. And so, I invite you to join me. Let us carry this message together to kindle the spark within every heart until the light we share banishes the shadows once and for all. Her eyes locked with mine, and she said, "Lewis, what I'm about to show you is not meant to frighten you, but to prepare you. The choices humanity makes in the years ahead will shape the destiny of countless generations." Before I could fully absorb Diana's warning, the space around us began to ripple and rearrange itself, as if an invisible hand had pulled back a curtain to reveal scenes both startling and surreal. I watched in stunned silence as images of Earth unfolded before me, not the world I recognized, but a fractured reflection of it. Above us, the sky was choked with smog and shadow. Below, streets teemed with bewildered crowds, each person isolated in their own despair. Rivers ran murky, once vibrant forests lay fallen, and a palpable tension thrummed through the air, as though factions of fear and anger had cleaved humanity in two. Diana's voice resonated through the void, urgent yet calm. "Humanity has wandered far from its true path," she declared. "Greed, apathy, and the ruthless pursuit of power have blinded so many hearts. But there is still light, Lewis. It lives in those who choose empathy over indifference, compassion over condemnation." At her words, fleeting visions flickered into view, individuals stepping forward amid chaos, strangers offering water to the thirsty, neighbors rebuilding homes toppled by violence, volunteers sharing blankets with the homeless. Each act of kindness glowed like a beacon, sending ripples of healing through the darkness. I saw a teacher comforting frightened children in a bombed-out school, and a doctor tending to the injured in a makeshift clinic, their small gestures weaving threads of hope through a tapestry of suffering. Then her tone deepened, warning edged beneath every syllable. "Beware the siren calls of those who promise unity and deliver only division. Some will feign benevolence to tighten their grip on power. Discernment, Lewis, will be your greatest ally. 1,000 questions swelled within me, but Diana's steady gaze silenced my doubts before they could surface. I cannot give you every answer, she said, her voice softening, but I can remind you how much each choice matters. The love you extend, the truths you uphold, the courage you summon, all these will shape the world's future. Then came the most astonishing revelation, the call to forgiveness on a global scale. Nations must learn to pardon old wounds, she insisted, emotion coloring her tone. The grudges of centuries bind us in chains, stronger than steel. Only through collective mercy can humanity advance. As the visions dissolved, Diana turned fully toward me, her face suffused with serene resolve. Lewis, share this message. Even those who seem unaware are listening. Speak not with fear, but with conviction. Demonstrate that even in the bleakest hour, hope endures. Her words sank into my very core, and I understood that nothing would ever be the same. Diana stood before me, the very embodiment of love and purpose, neither distant royalty nor abstract legend, but a kindred spirit who had borne the world's sorrows and hopes alike. You and many others have a role in this healing, she continued, voice firm yet tender. But first, you must mend your own heart. Her gaze, brimming with compassion, compelled me to confront long-buried regrets and insecurities. I felt the weight of past failures lift as she spoke. You are more than your mistakes, she reassured me. Your voice, your conviction, your capacity to inspire, these are gifts you must not squander. Believe in your worth, Lewis, as I believe in yours. Her sincerity was like a salve, soothing wounds I scarcely knew existed. A gentle warmth spread through me, igniting a newfound sense of purpose that transcended self-interest. Then she shared her own vulnerability, moments of loneliness behind public smiles, bouts of doubt amid her tireless advocacy. Perfection never changed the world, she confessed softly. It is our willingness to persevere, to love even when it hurts, that truly makes a difference. Tears blurred my vision as I recognized my own struggles, mirrored in her candor. Before she withdrew, Diana clasped my hand, and I felt her compassion flow into me like living water. Carry this love into every word and deed, she urged. You are never alone in this mission. With another gesture, the panorama shifted once more. I beheld a transformed earth. On one side, verdant forests, thriving cities, communities united in purpose. On the other, wastelands of charred trees, submerged coastlines, metropolises in ruin. It was a stark tableau of potential paths, one toward renewal, the other toward oblivion. Between these extremes, I saw communities gathering around solar farms, scientists collaborating across borders to restore coral reefs, and artists using murals to remind people of their shared humanity. Diana's voice guided me through these contrasts. This is what lies before us, renewal or ruin. It is not predetermined. It is a choice. In the scenes of rebirth, people of every background labored side by side, restoring habitats and rebuilding infrastructure. Ingenious technologies cleansed polluted waters and regenerated depleted soils. Children ran and laughed beneath clear skies, their futures unburdened. I noticed nurses delivering vaccines in remote villages, volunteers planting trees on barren hillsides, and engineers converting deserts into flourishing farmlands. Technology was used to heal the planet rather than exploit it, and there was a palpable sense of hope and joy. The darker vision lingered in my mind long after the light had dimmed. Wars erupted over scarce resources once taken for granted. Leaders, driven by avarice, cast aside compassion, and communities turned inward, suspicious of neighbors rather than reaching out for solidarity. I saw entire villages laid to waste by drought and conflict, their inhabitants fleeing across deserts and mountains in search of safety. Children, once carefree, trudged alongside their parents, clutching tattered blankets and empty water bottles. The suffering was vast, and hope seemed to slip through humanity's fingers like sand in an hourglass. Diana's voice cut through the gloom, crystal clear and unwavering. This is why I brought you here, Lewis. To bear witness, so you can help others understand the weight of every choice. Each gesture of kindness, every moment of empathy, shapes the world in ways you cannot yet imagine. As I watched these haunting scenes, a profound sense of responsibility settled over me. It wasn't just the actions of governments or corporations that would decide our fate. It was the sum of individual decisions, each conversation, each act of forgiveness, each willingness to see another's pain. I thought of my own life, the times I had hesitated to speak up, the moments I had rushed past someone in need without offering a word of comfort. Suddenly, those small oversights felt like missed opportunities to tip the scales toward compassion. She continued, her words echoing like a refrain through the swirling images. The smallest acts of compassion can send ripples farther than the widest river. One person's willingness to listen, to comfort, to forgive, can alter a life, and through that life, countless others. A simple smile offered to a stranger can remind them that they still belong. Visions of empathy began to replace the suffering. A teenager sharing her scarce food with a hungry elder. A bus driver refusing to leave behind a mother struggling with a stroller. A volunteer in a refugee camp, cradling a newborn as if she were his own grandchild. Each tiny spark of humanity glowed like a lantern in the night, illuminating pathways of resilience. Then her tone shifted, laced with caution beneath every syllable. Beware the siren calls of those who promise unity and deliver only division. Some will feign benevolence to tighten their grip on power. Discernment, Lewis, will be your greatest ally. I felt her gaze penetrate my thoughts, as though she could sense my uncertainty. I steeled myself, determined not to let fear cloud my judgment when that moment came. 1,000 questions swelled within me, but Diana's steady presence quelled my doubts before they could fully form. I cannot give you every answer, she said, her voice softening, but I can remind you how much each choice matters. The love you extend, the truths you uphold, the courage you summon, all these will shape the world's future. Then came the most astonishing revelation, the call to forgiveness on a global scale. Nations must learn to pardon old wounds, she insisted, her eyes glistening with urgency. The grudges of centuries bind us in chains stronger than steel. Only through collective mercy can humanity advance. I pictured historical conflicts, border disputes festering for generations, families torn apart by hatred passed down like heirlooms. Her words made me realize that forgiving wasn't forgetting, but freeing ourselves from the bondage of resentment. As the visions began to fade, Diana turned toward me, her face suffused with serene resolve. Lewis, share this message. Even those who seem unaware are listening. Speak not with fear, but with conviction. Demonstrate that, even in the bleakest hour, hope endures. Her words sank into my very core, and I understood that nothing would ever be the same. Diana stood before me, the very embodiment of love and purpose, neither distant royalty nor abstract legend, but a kindred spirit who had borne the world's sorrows and hopes alike. I felt a pulse of warmth spread through my chest, as though her belief had kindled a fire within me. You and many others have a role in this healing, she continued, her tone both firm and tender. But first you must mend your own heart. I looked down, recalling the guilt I'd carried for years, the mistakes I had made, the people I felt I had failed. Each memory felt like a weight draped across my shoulders. Diana's gaze, brimming with compassion, compelled me to confront those hidden burdens. You are more than your mistakes, she reassured me, her voice a gentle balm. Your voice, your conviction, your capacity to inspire, these are gifts you must not squander. Believe in your worth, Lewis, as I believe in yours. Her sincerity was like a salve, soothing wounds I scarcely knew existed. A gentle warmth spread through me, igniting a newfound sense of purpose that transcended self-interest. I inhaled, and it felt as though I were breathing in possibility itself. Then she shared her own vulnerability, moments of loneliness behind public smiles, bouts of doubt in the face of overwhelming expectations. Perfection never changed the world, she confessed softly. It is our willingness to persevere, to love even when it hurts, that truly makes a difference. I saw her not as a distant icon, but as someone who had wrestled with fear and heartbreak, yet pressed on regardless. Tears welled in my eyes as I recognized my own struggles, mirrored in her candor. Before she withdrew, Diana reached out and rested her hand on my arm. The warmth of her touch seemed to seep into my bones. Carry this love into every word and deed, she urged. You are never alone in this mission. I nodded, though words failed me. In that moment of mutual understanding, I felt a shift deep within, a promise unspoken but palpable. Diana gave me a reassuring smile, one that held the promise of unwavering belief. Lewis, she said, your story will kindle courage in hearts that have nearly given up. Never underestimate the power of your own example. A peaceful calm settled over me, as though I crossed an invisible threshold. I realized that everything I had endured, every pang of doubt and guilt, had prepared me for this calling. Then, as if on cue, the luminous space around us began to blur. The radiant hues softened, and the gentle hum that underscored every sound in that realm faded. Diana's form wavered between clarity and ethereality, yet her presence remained resolute. Our time here is brief, she spoke softly, but the message I've entrusted to you will echo through your actions. You have glimpsed both what could be lost and what could be reborn. Now carry this vision into the world. She placed her palm against my chest, and I felt a surge of energy, electric warmth that seemed to infuse every fiber of my being. It was as though a part of her unwavering conviction had merged with my own soul. You are never alone, Lewis, she whispered. Challenges will come, and doubt may shadow your path. But remember, love is the most potent force in the universe. Let it be your compass. I wanted to press her for more guidance, to ask what I should do next, but I sensed this was her final charge. With a graceful step back, Diana allowed herself to be absorbed into the dissolving light. The last thing I saw was her serene smile, a beacon of compassion that seemed to linger in the very air around me. Her departing words resonated in my mind like a mantra. Be the light in the darkness, for even the smallest flame can guide thousands. Then, just as the world of visions melted away, I felt a gentle tug, an external pull drawing me back. The soft murmur of voices, distant at first, grew clearer. The sterile scent of the hospital returned. Instruments beeped. A cool draft brushed against my skin. Gasping, I felt my lungs refill with air. Head snapped toward me. A nurse's eyes widened with astonishment. And then he's back, someone exclaimed, and I realized I had been pulled back to life. My body felt impossibly heavy, as if the weight of everything I had witnessed pressed down on me. Yet beneath that exhaustion, a profound clarity and serenity took root. I could recall every detail, the luminous light, the unfolding visions, and Diana's resonant words, as vividly as though they had occurred mere moments ago. I knew with certainty that none of it was mere fantasy, and that realization filled me with both awe and responsibility. The medical team clustered around me, their expressions a blend of relief and disbelief. A young nurse leaned close, her voice quivering. You were clinically dead for almost 5 minutes. It's nothing short of a miracle that you're breathing. I offered her a weak nod, unable to summon the words that might explain such an impossible journey. Moments later, my family burst into the room, their tears of joy flooding the sterile air. They enveloped me in tight embraces, their gratitude palpable. Yet even amid their jubilation, I felt transformed, not only in body, but in spirit. It was as though I'd been granted a reprieve for a mission that stretched far beyond my own survival. In that embrace, I sensed a profound shift. My second chance at life was inseparable from the duty now placed upon me. Over the next several hours, I recounted fragments of my odyssey to those dearest to me, while my speech stumbled over the ineffable grandeur of what I had witnessed. The core of Diana's message, love, hope, forgiveness, shone through. Family members exchanged stunned glances as I described the realm of light and compassion, and even the most pragmatic among them found themselves moved. It was clear that her guidance wasn't meant for me alone. It was a charge to be shared with the wider world. As I spoke, I noticed a subtle shift in the room. Faces softened, eyes brightened, and in that moment, I understood how contagious hope could be. That night, lying in the dim glow of the hospital room, I stared at the ceiling and contemplated the enormity of my experience. I had traversed beyond the veil of this life into a realm governed by compassion and truth. There, I had encountered Diana, no longer a distant icon, but a luminous advocate who entrusted me with a vision of hope. My thoughts drifted to the people I would meet, the stories I would tell, and the small changes I could inspire. Sleep eluded me, replaced by a restless, eager anticipation of what tomorrow might bring. In the days that followed, the sense that my life no longer belonged solely to me grew ever stronger. Diana's final admonition echoed in my mind, "Be the light in the darkness." Those words felt less like advice and more like a solemn vow. Routine tasks, breaking bread, walking through my neighborhood, even opening my mail, acquired new significance. Every moment shimmered with latent purpose. I found myself pausing to greet strangers, offering genuine smiles and words of encouragement, curious to see how small acts of kindness might ripple outward. Yet I wrestled with uncertainty. How could I convey such an extraordinary story without sounding delusional? Could I express the urgency of Diana's message without it dissolving into skepticism? Doubts gnawed at me, threatening to choke my resolve. Still, alongside them, a resolute determination took shape, a determination that had been seated in that otherworldly realm and watered by Diana's unwavering faith in me. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a quiet conversation with an old friend, I mentioned a single detail of my near-death journey, just enough to gauge their reaction. Instead of laughter or disbelief, their eyes shimmered with tears. "Eyes have been so weary of despair," they whispered. Hearing this, it feels like sunlight after a storm. That response galvanized me. I realized Diana's message didn't require a grand stage. It began with one heart, one conversation at a time. I resolved to speak authentically, trusting that those in need would recognize the sincerity behind my words. In the days that followed, I practiced articulating the experience, refining the way I described the visions, so that listeners could grasp the emotional core, even if the supernatural elements remained beyond full explanation. I started sharing more openly, first with close friends and family, then at small community gatherings. With each telling, I sensed Diana's presence, as though she guided my voice. While a few listeners met me with raised eyebrows, most leaned in, captivated by the call to forgiveness, unity, and love over fear. As word spread, strangers reached out to share how my account helped them mend fractured relationships, rekindle their optimism, or embrace a long-neglected dream. Some even invited me into schools and churches, eager for young people and congregations to hear a message of collective healing. Still, the burden of this calling was immense. I understood that I had been gifted not merely a second chance at life, but a purpose that transcended personal ambition. Yet not everyone embraced my story. Criticism arrived in the form of skeptical comments, some labeling me a fraud, others attributing my experience to hallucination or adrenaline-fueled fantasy. The sting was sharp, particularly when it came from those whose respect I valued most. In those moments of wavering faith, I found solace in small affirmations, a thank you note from a stranger whose marriage was rekindled, a friend's tearful confession of newfound hope, a listener's fervent promise to forgive an estranged parent. Each act of transformation reminded me that the truth of my message lay not in my credibility, but in its power to spark healing. I collected these stories in a journal, reading them whenever doubt crept in, letting them reinforce the profound impact one person's testimony could have on many lives. To fortify my resolve, I turned again to reflection and stillness. I recalled the serene expanse of Diana's realm, the silhouettes of souls united by compassion, and the warmth of her hand upon mine. Her counsel, "Speak the truth, even when it hurts," became my mantra. Each morning, I spent moments in quiet meditation, envisioning the world as she had shown me it could be, and setting intentions for how I might help realize that vision through small, compassionate deeds. Gradually, I grew more confident. The jabs of skepticism no longer deterred me. Instead, I focused on those who responded with open hearts. Together, we organized gatherings, circles of sharing, workshops on forgiveness, volunteer initiatives aimed at bridging divides. In those spaces, hope took tangible form. Community gardens blossomed, local charities expanded their reach, and neighbors who'd barely spoken before began collaborating on projects for the common good. Throughout this journey, I clung to Diana's unwavering gaze and her final benediction. They were my anchor when the currents of doubt threatened to sweep me away. In the quiet moments before dawn meditations, after long days of sharing her message, I returned to her words that my path was never about earning acclaim, but about fulfilling a broader mission of healing and unity. They were my anchor in moments of doubt, a reminder that my journey wasn't about seeking approval, but about fulfilling a greater purpose.